There was a time when being seen to be doing work mattered. The worker who got into the office first and was last to leave was noticed. And management, at least partially, measured performance by time sat in front of a desk. But if COVID and the resulting lockdowns have taught us anything, it is that what matters is what we do, our output, and what we achieve, not how long we sit at a desk. We spoke to Fred Krieger, founder and CEO of Scoro. Scoro is a software company that provides an end-to-end work management solution that helps agencies, consultancies, and knowledge workers in general manage their time. So Fred is in the time business and knows a thing or two about it. Like so many people, he thinks presenteeism, where you have to be present in the office at your desk to be seen to be working, is on its way out.
I don't really think there would be any reasons, especially when we talk about knowledge workers, or as some call them, brain workers. There's really no reason to keep them in an office from 9 to 5 from Monday to Friday. So I guess what the pandemic did was just kind of accelerate that evolution by probably 10 years at least, maybe even more.
That does not necessarily mean the end of the office altogether. Some people prefer working that way. It may not be practical for them to work from home. So we're seeing a hybrid model emerge, with some days in the office, some days working remotely, wherever the individual can do their best work. Some companies may operate in an entirely different way. No more rows of desks. Instead, where workers do meet, the environment will be conducive to social interaction. Is this the real value of an office environment? The ability to interact?
The way we look at it in our company, we've been for remote working for a while now. It doesn't really matter where anyone works from, whether it's from their home, from their office, from a remote location, as long as they're productive, as long as they do what the purpose of the role is, it doesn't really matter where they are. And I'm pretty sure I would be ready to bet on it that this is the future in most companies. And you see these trends, when you look at companies like Dropbox closing down their offices, moving to smaller offices, and actually redesigning their offices to be more of kind of these lounges where people get together and less resemble the office as we know it today. So there will definitely be a need for the team to get together once in a while, and companies may choose to decide whether they want to own that premise or rent that premise where the team gets together, or obviously there's more and more companies that go fully remote and then once or twice a year rent a villa somewhere, or a huge holiday like a complex of holiday homes, get their team there, spend some FaceTime, and then go back to kind of full remote working. And yeah, I mean, it looks like a trend that is here to stay, absolutely, regardless of the pandemic, whether it's gonna come back again, whether it's gonna get more serious, or whether it's gonna completely disappear. I think what it's done to remote and hybrid working, that effect will stay with us forever.
It is also about trusting the team. Management have to learn a new way of managing.
We actually saw that last spring when the pandemic hit. We saw a lot of customers who were, well, I don't want to call it in panic, but they were they were quite in shock about what had happened, and that they had never, I mean, the managers had never had any experience managing their team while they weren't there, right? So and that was completely new for them. So they I think one of the biggest things that needed to change was just the mindset of understanding, you know, the fact that you don't need to see people do the work in order to be happy about it, right? And of course it wasn't with everyone. It was just a few customers, but we saw that, and I think what has changed most is the trust. I guess there are many managers that now, thanks to the pandemic, finally had to kind of learn to trust their team completely.
For some of us, this could mean we end up living in paradise. We could live on a Greek island and work for a company based in London with just very occasional trips from paradise to the city.
As long as you don't need to do something physical, you know, when you need to build a wall or you know, dig a hole somewhere, you probably cannot do it from Santorini, at least not yet. But if it's something that can be done over the internet, it you know, I mean, the pandemic actually showed us, whether you're a couple of dozen miles away or whether you're across the ocean, we're all working through Zoom or through any kind of digital channels. It doesn't really matter where we are. So why spend, especially in these kind of big cities, why spend hours a day commuting to the office if you could use that time with your family, you know, for learning something new, for, you know, taking more time off, etc. So I would absolutely see no reasons why this trend shouldn't continue. At the moment, I'm in a tiny beach town in Estonia, which is called Pärnu. So it's the summer capital of Estonia, one of the small Baltic countries.
And this brings us to time. Never seem to find the time, sang Pink Floyd. Some call time the enemy. How much time do we spend actually working? How much time do we spend doing non-productive stuff? You know, unimportant emails, pinging phones, firefighting, and then there is the dreaded crash as the computer betrays us in our hour of need. The digital age supplies us with a long list of tools designed to address process flow, data management, and communication, all of which require separate mastery, interaction, and attention. Scoro calls these tools of the digital age weapons of mass distraction.
We actually coined that term while observing the way brain workers manage their time, and the way interruptions actually define more and more of our working days. So essentially, it's a term, kind of an umbrella term, that's supposed to describe anything that keeps us from actually focusing on what's important, focusing on what has to get done, and instead keeps us from fragmenting our workflow, switching, multitasking, firefighting, etc. So some of it is obvious, like you know, chatter in an open office, different kinds of pings and rings and things we get on our phones. But some of it is kind of like wolves in sheep's clothing. It's some of the applications, some of the tools that are supposed to help us, that actually they kind of do, but at the same time they're making us even more reactive in our daily work. So essentially everything that keeps us from being proactive and moves our behavior more to the reactive side of the scale.
We do not have an unlimited ability to focus our attention and energy for longer than a few hours in a day. Perhaps weapons of mass distraction are a welcome break from all that concentration. To get our mental juices working, to experience that crescendo of creativity, we might need to go for a walk, practice yoga, or have a coffee. We don't have to be sitting at a desk. What the pandemic has proven is that we do not need to be measured by our presence. Presenteeism has swiftly become an outdated management technique. What matters is efficient time management and the end output. Scoro thinks we need a chief time officer.
So, you know how it's interesting how almost every company has an accounting person or a CFO or a controller or a finance team for that matter. Even small companies with a couple of dozen people, they always have someone managing their money. So someone that knows the answer to questions like how much did we spend, how much did we, how big was our revenue? So they know these answers down to every single penny. How much they're paying for coffee, the latest company party, just to name a few examples. And at the same time, when we talk about these companies in the business of time, which essentially include consulting companies, agencies, everyone that makes their money only by selling their time, for some reason, these companies are far from being as precise about their time as they are about money. So even in those companies where time is the ultimate asset, time is the only way for them to generate any revenue, they tend to be very precise when it comes to money. They know every penny, but they, for some reason, tend to be quite vague when it comes to time. And here's what where the chief time officer concept comes in. So we again, a term we have coined, we've also trademarked, and we are looking to publish quite a bit of material, thought leadership material around the chief time officer. We have defined a framework. Essentially, I mean, not to go into too much detail. Essentially, it's about managing your time as granularly as you would manage your money. And the chief time officer would be the person in the organization who would be in charge of all that related activities. So essentially, that's what it means.
And how does Scoro help?
So when it comes to our platform, the way we see things is that the fewer places you have to log in, the less you have different applications that basically fragment your data, the faster the decisions that you need to make can be made. So essentially, instead of juggling between, say, 12 to 15 different applications for getting work done on a daily basis, whether it's your calendar, your task list, something for quoting, something for managing your invoicing, something for managing cost, etc., etc., it's all in one place. It's all integrated. It's all interlinked, which means that any question you might have, it takes just a few clicks and you get the answer. And the biggest effect of that is not just the fact that you have fewer applications, you have fewer apps to get familiar with. The main benefit of all of that is that you end up having drastically less needless meetings, ad hoc conversations, or drive-by meetings, as they're called, and just more time and energy focusing. That's how our technology comes into play.
Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose, wrote Chris Christopherson in a song made famous by Janis Joplin. But the last thing we want to lose is time. It is the one thing we can never get back. And maybe true freedom is having time. Managing it more effectively, overcoming weapons of mass distraction with the help of chief time officers is vital for happier employees making better use of their time for their employer and themselves.